who's inside, let's please welcome with a huge round of applause.
Thank you and good afternoon. It's a packed house. Okay, so this topic is very close to my heart because when Paru and another gentleman, I'm very bad with names, was talking about career choices and how people choose the MR industry and then move on to being a client. For me, it's a little reverse. I spent 17 years as a client in multiple companies. Post that, after 40, I chose research as a career. And one of the fundamental reasons I did that, because this is one profession that allowed me and a lot of others to dive deep, which is definitely going to be a next session and a very important session today. So there'll be a few quick slides on the screen, and I just want you to just think about, when I talk about dive deep, how deep can you actually dive? So this is possibly the deepest part of the world at 10,916 meters. It's a trench in the Pacific Ocean. And it says the degree of difficulty going and hitting that bottom, where the amount of clarity is humongous, is about 10. Obviously on a scale of 10. These are just some thoughts in terms of, and there are people who actually do that. I don't know how many of us in this room would be comfortable doing any one of these, but there are people out there who actually do this, some as a profession, some as a hobby, and some as an adventure. This is still a little simpler in terms of going deep down and figuring out something or finding out something. This very deep cave, and it has taken lives, but it still hasn't been able to dissuade people from finding depth. And sometimes these are actually life-changing situations for people. And this is probably the fourth of my not so many slides, 5 slides, where we talk about another lake, Baikal, which is again a very, very deep lake in the way it is formed and the degree of difficulties. But fortunately for most of us in this room, we don't really need to dive that deep to actually understand what a deep dive is. Because this slide tells us how deep we actually need to dive. That's all. But the strange part is that sometimes we don't. We're still scratching the surface, and some of us have gone maybe 13 or 14 millimeters beyond the surface. And there were a few discussions yesterday, and one of them specifically where I think there was a lady from Amazon and Deepak from Zomato talking about people, and somebody said that digital is the new way in, and sometimes I don't think it's digital, it's more phygital. Because if you put a mobile phone on your tables and ask all of you, just not touch it for the next 3 hours, it's going to be a real pain for a lot of us not to do this. So it's more beyond digital. People have become very fidgy. They just can't keep their minds focused on a single thing for a fairly long time, and that makes research a little more difficult. And talking about journey and talking about how many people or personas are within one person, it's not just 2, it's so many. Like even if you talk about qualitative research, it depends on at what time you're speaking to the respondent to elucidate what kind of responses. And if you talk to the same respondent 3 hours later, your findings may be very different from what it was in the morning. So it's a tough ask. Research is a tough ask. And here, as a group of researchers who really love their business, I think it's important to dive that deep to really understand what makes people tick. And that allows or ensues in discussions and debates and conversations, which allow people around us who create our ecosystem to actually take large, informed decisions. With that, I would now like to introduce, I'm very bad with names, so I really need to read this out. A veteran in this research industry, Mr. Ashutosh Sinha. Please, can we have him on stage? And Sundar Muthuraman, who's been an ex-managing committee member for MRSI and continues to support us from the outside even today. Welcome, gentlemen. And the topic they're going to talk about is the more things change, strangely, they still remain the same. Thank you.